Good afternoon and welcome to Stamford Bridge. Chelsea back in Premier League action this afternoon against Southampton. It's a different test for Graham Potter's team after a midweek defeat in Dortmund, but all eyes on this afternoon, and I'm delighted to say I'm pitchside in the company of Zach and Sam. Boys, are we good? Sam, are you good?
Good. I'm excited, man. I'm excited. A good performance midweek. Got to need a strong performance today, and yeah, I'm excited for a good game.
Is that what it's about, Zach? It's about building on to that. Like we spoke about, a good performance in midweek, disappointing result, but today's another opportunity.
Yeah, look, chances were created. Me and Sam were talking beforehand about how we felt like we came out of that game. And you know what? I'd rather come out of games where I feel like we could have got something, and obviously chances where we were creating loads and loads of chances, they just weren't going in, than coming out of a game being, well, we didn't make anything. Like, there are signs there are things to believe in. And so, yeah, I think that today's game is all about developing on that.
Absolutely. We do have to start, unfortunately, with some terribly sad news that has come out this morning, that former Chelsea player Christian Atsu has unfortunately been found dead in Turkey. We know the devastation that the earthquakes have caused in Turkey and Syria over the last couple of days. Tragically sad. Fantastic footballer, fantastic man as well. A lot of the stories that are coming out, Sam, about his human side to him, you know, a great player. A lot of people were speaking to Lee Park a little bit earlier, very fondly thought of during his period here at the football club. And although we didn't see him as much in a Chelsea shirt, still very much part of the Chelsea family.
Yeah, he's one of those players that you hear about, and every player and manager that spoke about him is the personality, the energy that he had around the camp. Like you said, wasn't able to make as many appearances that he would have wanted to at Chelsea, but that didn't stop him from being a good person. And it's so sad, it's a situation that happened.
Yeah, absolutely right. There's obviously a lot of people that have lost their lives in it. It's a tragically sad situation, and Christian Atsu is obviously one of a number of those whose families and friends will be grieving. But today, Chelsea will have their opportunity to pay their respects. There'll be a minute's applause before kick-off. Players will be wearing black armbands as well. And again, it's terribly sad for a wonderful footballer and a wonderful person.
No, it's incredibly sad. And this is a guy that did so much off of the pitch as well. Set up several foundations, some helping children. I think in football we often obviously always look at the football pitch and what's happening on the football pitch, and we forget sometimes that these are human beings, and what he did off the football pitch was outstanding. And yeah, it's incredibly sad news.
Absolutely. Football is of course trivial when things like this happen and things like this are in the news, but we are going to switch our focus back onto today's game here at Chelsea. I want to talk to you about Wednesday evening then, Sam, because it was, again, a good performance, a performance in the right direction for Chelsea away at Dortmund. But one of those performances as well where I think it kind of underlines the need for Chelsea to find the back of the net, because they're doing everything right apart from getting their rewards in front of goal.
Yeah, I think that was probably the most frustrating thing about the game. You know, you're seeing your team play so well in an atmosphere. We was talking to someone there, the atmosphere that was so huge. Like, it would be so difficult to play in such a stadium that they're having 81,000 fans. You're getting booed for the majority of the game, and you're dominating for large parts as well. So yeah, it was nice to see, but obviously the goals is what we needed. But I think when you look at performances like that, you know you're heading in the right direction. A lot of the players and the manager spoke about that, and that's what you need going into games like this.
Absolutely. Zach, it's about, people always throw out buzzwords when things aren't going exactly well. People talk about, you know, character and talk about charisma between this group. I want to read you a stat, actually, because I had a little look at this earlier. XG, okay? Football people either love or hate XG, right? It's expected goals, if you're unaware of it. And it essentially means how likely you are to score based on the chance you've created, right? Probability and stuff like that. So in the XG Premier League table, Chelsea are 11th, okay? Which is about where we are in the league at the moment, okay? So that doesn't really lie. However, since January the 1st, Chelsea are 4th in the Premier League, which immediately shows the change in what Graham Potter's trying to do with this new group.
Yeah, and normally what you see as well with XG is, okay, people either overperform or underperform, but eventually it equals itself out. And whether that is over several seasons or several months, it will eventually equal itself out. If you looked at, say, Erling Haaland, he is over his XG, but we've also seen recently he hasn't been scoring as often. So things eventually do work out to the numbers that are being predicted. And with Chelsea, I think you can just look at that Dortmund game. I think Chelsea came away from that game with 2 expected goals. Obviously, we scored 0, but as I mentioned earlier at the beginning of the show, we are creating opportunities, we are creating chances. It's now just about putting those chances into the back of the net. And I think hopefully today we'll start to see that. We'll start to see improvements in front of goal and finding it. And look, we're talking about minimalist changes about how, okay, if João Felix, instead of, you know, putting a little bit higher onto the crossbar, just a little bit lower and it goes in, that's what we're talking about. We're talking about one which was cleared off of the line by Emre Can. We're getting there. We are getting there. And I think what Chelsea need is they need like a catalyst game, a game to kick them off, score 2 goals, 3 goals, whatever it might be, and then keep going for the rest of the season.
Let's have a talk about today's team news then, Sam, because one of the answers potentially to that goal scoring issue could be David Fofana, who starts for Chelsea today up front in more of a number 9 position. Mason Mount comes back into the team as well. Joao Felix in the 10, Madueke on the right-hand side, we believe. That could be the answer, is a proper centre-forward like David Fofana, who we know has got goals in him.
Yeah, and he's a player that we've spoke about quite a lot. You know, he's coming, he's quite young as well. You can tell he's got that raw pace, raw energy as well, but at the same time, he's got that excitability about him. He was unlucky not to score against Fulham when he rounded the keeper and it was cleared off the line, but almost that's our luck in this moment. But Mason Mount coming back into the team, Madueke looking excited, Felix creating a lot of chances. It sounds like a recipe that's going to hopefully get a lot of goals.
And also a big call in the middle of the park alongside Enzo Fernandez, Mateo Kovacic, which Chelsea fans have wanted to see. Mateo's fit again, Enzo starts. That pairing could be, well, a dream come true.
It's going to be a really interesting pairing because, you know what, I actually think there are quite a few similarities between the players. Both like to have the ball at feet, both like to carry the ball forward, and it's going to be interesting how they complement each other. Who's going to maybe be doing more of the defensive work? You'd think maybe off the top of my head it might be Enzo doing that side of things. I think it's been really interesting when we've seen Enzo play next to certain players. Obviously, we saw him next to Ruben Loftus-Cheek, a guy who's much more physical, much more bigger, more athletic per se. But also, one of the favourite things about Enzo Fernandez is he can do whatever you want him to do. Do you want him to do more of the defensive work? He'll do that. Do you want him to do more of the attacking work? He'll do that. Do you want him to be more of a box-to-box midfielder? He'll do that. And I think we might see today a nice little complement of each other where, you know what, both are more than happy to play 1-2 passes, let Kovacic drive forward, let Enzo fill in the space, so on and so forth. And also, Enzo's got a good shot on him. He's got a really good shot on him. I really think today we might see like a 25-yard shot could find the back of the net.
That's the interesting thing, is it's about building those connections, that partnerships, getting the best out of players that are in the team. Just to run you through the full 11 for Chelsea: Kepa starts in goal, a back four captained by Cesar Azpilicueta, who comes back in, and then Benoit Badiashile alongside Kalidou Koulibaly at centre half, Ben Chilwell on the left hand side, we believe a midfield two of Enzo Fernandez and Mateo Kovacic, then a front four in whatever formation you like of Joao Felix, Mason Mount, David Fofana and Madueke, Noni Madueke as well. Just on that, because again, big chance for players coming in for whatever reason. You know, there's 1 or 2 players that are missing out this afternoon. No Reece James in the team sheet. No Thiago Silva in the squad either today. Players like Badiashile has to miss Champions League. Might be a little bit of a sort of a nod from Graham Potter to say, this is your competition now. This is you for the rest of the season. Be that one.
Yeah, he's been so consistent since he's come into the side, and I think Koulibaly might be even look at that situation and say, you know what, I deserve an opportunity to start. We saw him in the Champions League against Dortmund, a high-flying attacking team, and he was brilliant, you know what I mean? So I think coming into this game, where he's not been playing that game week in, week out, coming next to someone that is used to playing in front of this crowd and knowing the pressure, I think that would be a great partnership.
That's the thing, again, we keep coming back to it, talking about partnerships, but at centre half, central midfield, those are the 2 areas where you can dictate a game, where you can decide a game. Partnerships are hard to come by, but when you've got Thiago Silva on the training pitch, I suppose whoever steps into that role knows what they've got to step up to. It might even be a little bit of, okay, I know my role today because I'm replacing the great man.
Yeah, I mean, look, stepping into Thiago Silva's shoes is definitely not something I would personally be wanting to do. This is a guy who since he's been here has not put a foot wrong and led us to Champions League final and lifting it as well. You've also obviously got Azpilicueta as well on the right side, who's obviously got the experience too. This is the whole point about having a deep squad, is when maybe certain scenarios happen or you want to rest certain players, you can do that. Thiago Silva isn't a young guy anymore, right? As much as I'd love him to be 25, we do have to protect him. You don't want to have to overplay players. You don't want to have to possibly give the risk of an injury. And so you will have games where you need to trial them, and that's why you've got a deep squad. We've still got Wesley Fofana to come back as well, another young, exciting centre-back. And it's that same partnership of, okay, we've got an experienced guy in Kalidou Koulibaly, who's been around the game, has been Serie A's best centre-back for several seasons. And then you've got a young guy in someone like Benoit Badiashile, who's coming through, has proven on this pitch several times the level that he's already playing to, and possibly the level he could go on to achieve as well. And again, you've got a right-footed centre-back, a left-footed centre-back, complement each other really well. Hopefully, they'll both slot in like a glove or fit in like a glove. Don't know if that's the right saying. And things will go well.
Definitely, and again, you look at the substitutes, which is big for Chelsea as well today. Trevor Chalobah, Mykhailo Mudryk, Raheem Sterling back on the bench for Chelsea today. Dennis Zakaria as well back involved. Conor Gallagher, Kai Havertz, Wesley Fofana, another name on the substitutes bench. Lewis Hall and Marcus Bettinelli. Players are coming back into fitness, which again is a huge positive for Graham Potter, because we know we have got a big squad when everyone's fit and firing, but you need to have those players available to reap the rewards of having a big squad.
Yeah, definitely. And we mentioned players coming back into the squad in the Premier League anyway with Koulibaly, but we forget about Trevor Chalobah, who hasn't really put a foot wrong. For Fofana, we saw his qualities before he got injured, and then Sterling as well, who you're now seeing so much more competition coming into his position where he's now a senior player where he has to say, I want to perform, I want to be in that team, and that's the competition that you want to see at a club like Chelsea and that we're used to as well. So it's great to have those players back for them to fight for those positions.
Let's talk about João Felix.
Oh, please.
What a
Go
player.
on for hours.
Well, we've only got until kick-off, so don't do that. But he's been sensational since he arrived at Chelsea. Obviously, the 60 minutes at Fulham before he got sent off for that tackle. We missed him dearly, which I think showed his impact immediately. But his creativity, his bravery. There's a stat going around which I had a little look at the other day about progressive passes and progressive carries of the football, which essentially means once you're getting on the ball, you're looking to drive forward. And he is already in a league of his own in terms of what he's doing within 90 minutes. He has been sensational. Getting him and Mason Mount, Chelsea's two most creative ball carriers, in the same team today. It's a big ask for Graham Potter to try and find a system that works, but if you get it right, that's surely the best answer for Chelsea.
He is. There are certain footballers where, and I think because of his time at Atletico Madrid and the way Atletico Madrid play, it limited his ability to do this. But there are certain footballers that play with such a swagger, with a way that once they're on the ball, they'll try the little trick, they'll try the little pass that you don't think could have happened, and he finds it to be successful the majority of the time. You can see him already. I think beforehand you saw him come out during the World Cup time, speaking about how he wants to enjoy his football. He wants to play football with a smile on his face again. And look, in football there are different systems. That's fair enough. And he won La Liga with Atletico Madrid. I don't think he's going to complain too much about that. But right now you can already see himself at Chelsea enjoying it, in being able to kind of run down the pitch. This is his home debut tonight, right? I think he's going to enjoy it even more so when he's playing in front of 40,000 people who are all supporting him as well. I mean, the idea of him playing to the degree he is, Mason as well on one wing. We haven't even mentioned him. Noni Madueke is another guy who's super exciting, loves it coming on that left foot. There are really exciting players here who are happy to take on a man. He's a player who gets the crowd excited, which at times you really do need. Get the crowd to, every time he's on the ball, the crowd are standing up, knowing something's going to happen. There aren't many players like that in world football, and João Felix is definitely one of them.
One of the things that stood out for me as well, Sam, I think it was last Saturday against West Ham, there was a moment, I think it was Ben Chilwell, soon after he came on, he had an opportunity to take a shot on goal. First thing that João Felix did when the shot didn't go in, put his arm around Ben Chilwell, little whisper in the ear. Like his leadership qualities already for a player that's played at the very, very top level, for such a young player to come and have that impact is huge.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. He's very young, but you can see that he takes ownership and takes responsibility. Like he doesn't have to be that player. You know, he's only on loan. We've seen countless times that loan players don't take that responsibility, but you can see that he loves Chelsea. He's spoken countless interviews about the team and how great the team can be. So you can already see that he really feels that he's a part of this squad and he wants us to win and he wants to be a part of that. You know, he plays in a role where you see him in so many different positions and it's like he wants to make things happen. And like Zach said, for a crowd like this, we're going to love that. We're going to love seeing that. Now, get the goals going. It's going to be amazing.
The finish against West Ham is so nice, man. And he's always looking for certain little things. He makes, and it's not easy. He's making the perfect runs. I mean, you see as well, he's got this bromance forming with Enzo Fernandez in midfield. Like it is not. Obviously, with the season that's happening today, it's nice to see these little things where you're seeing like relationships blossom, and it's such a young side that could have such a long future together. And look, we don't know what's going to happen at the end of this season. But the fact that after only, less than 180 minutes, it feels like, he's getting the Chelsea fan base to support him like this already, I mean, he's doing something right.
And again, let's remember, you know, it can absolutely go the other way. If on your debut you get sent off, you get a 3-game ban and you're a lone player, all of a sudden, you know, you could very, very easily have a fan base questioning you. But the fact that nobody is, and the fact that, to be fair, you can look around and the cheer that João Felix gets when his name's read out, that the excitement that you'll see in everyone's eyes when he gets on the ball immediately shows you when fans buy into what you're doing because they know how much you're giving. As a lone player, that's a huge testament to his character more than his performance ability, because his character is big.
Yeah, and also as a player, your head can drop. If that situation happens to you, you're playing well, you get a red card, that could you would feel 10 times more pressure, but he knew that the fans were behind him. He went into that game against West Ham, was one of our star players again. We saw him in midweek. He's building from those performances because, like we said, he's playing in a completely different league. Everyone that has come to this league has talked about how tough it is and how difficult it is to play, but he's taken it so easily, and it's one of those things where, because you can tell that he's getting warm, I'm looking forward to the next few games, even today. Like, what more can we see from him?
He's been sensational since he's joined. Another man that's been sensational since he's joined all those years ago is Jason Cundy. Over to you, mate.
Hello, guys. How are we?
Very well, mate. Very well. Yourself?
Yeah, good, matey. Good.
Jace, just talk us through the team news then, please, because obviously from your perspective, what's the standout, what's the highlights, what you pick the bones out of?
Well, I mean, you look at Reece James is missing. Obviously, we're very nervous when we see Reece off the team sheet, but when you look at what he's done, I'm pleased to see. I spoke to you guys earlier in the office. We kind of both agreed for Fafana to start, give us something a little bit different up top. Kai Havertz has come in. Obviously, he's not a number 9, but he does a job. He scored the goal in the Champions League final, of course, but I kind of like what he's done here, and there had to be 1 or 2 changes because of the Champions League squad, because of there's 1 or 2 players missing. I know Ecker, of course, who starts today, but he's mixed it about, and this is what he's got to do. It still feels, I would love your thoughts, it still feels a little bit like he's searching for the right formula, the right team, the right shape. He's still kind of looking for the best that he can get out of this squad. As we're at Mudrik's on the bench, I think since his cameo role, brilliant cameo role against Liverpool, hasn't quite hit the straps again. I think that's fair. Felix has got to start. He's been outstanding. I heard you boys just talking a second ago. He's been a revelation. Zakaria on the bench. I think about what we're going to do. This is what I'm thinking about. The Champions League second leg, of course, against Dortmund. I just wonder whether Zakaria might well be the perfect partnership for Enzo. We'll have to wait and see.
But that's a good question, actually, because I was going to ask you about that. Obviously, Ruben partnered Enzo midweek, and we know that over the next few weeks, I suppose, we're going to be developing and trying to find that perfect partnership. Where is the key partnership in this Chelsea team? Where is the one area we need to look at maybe getting a run of consistency between? Because obviously injuries are going to play their part, but if Graham Potter did have a magic wand, the fully fit squad, where would be the one area he'd look to solidify immediately?
All over the pitch. These partnerships develop. So you have a partnership between your centre-half and your full-back, left and right. Your centre-half and the man in front, or the men in front, depending. And then, of course, you go forward. Then you look at Chilwell and Mudryk, as it was the other night. Now you look at something different. Looks like it's Chilwell and Mount. Partnerships all over the pitch are built, and then those partnerships build up. So you start thinking about the 2 in the middle of the park that we've got today. Cover returns with Enzo. Is that the one that we're looking for? I mentioned a second ago about Zakaria, about coming in with Enzo. It feels like that might well be the way he goes. And then we saw us play 4-4-2 the other day. So you've got Enzo up top with Kai. He's still looking, he's searching, he's trying to find the best way, the best formula. And he's got to come up with these answers quickly, because we're getting to the stage of the season now where we're 1-0 down in the Champions League. I think we can still beat Dortmund. I don't think Dortmund are brilliant. We got done on a sucker punch. Bad goal defensively to concede when you're taking the corner. That should never happen. But we got done. But I think you come here in a couple of weeks' time, I fancy us strongly. But he's still looking for that. That's the biggest game of his life. Potter is going to be here on, I think it's the 7th of March. That's going to be the biggest game. And he's now looking for these games, looking to try and find a formula. We should, whatever formula you have today, whatever partnerships you have all over the pitch, we've got to beat Southampton. It's as simple as that. We have to find a way to finish those chances that we create. We've got to beat them today. But in answer to your question, all over the pitch, he's still looking for those partnerships.
Just one final thing as well, Jace, because obviously there's a couple of players returning from injury on the bench today, Raheem Sterling being one of them. We've seen him for England, we've seen him for Manchester City playing that false 9 position. If the answer is perhaps a more fluid front 4, front 3, whatever it is, David Fafana gets the nod tonight, but he can't play in the Champions League. If you're looking for different options, Kai Havertz gives you something. Raheem Sterling, could he potentially play as a 9 for you?
Well, he has done, hasn't he? He's done that for England, he's done that for Manchester City. It's not a 9 though, is it? You know, I know the question you've asked, but he's not a 9, and we're still, despite all the money that we have spent, we still haven't solved the problem. I don't think we solved it since Costa left, in all honesty. Didier's the number 1, number 9, if that makes sense. Costa came in and was an absolute devil up top. You know, he gave us that platform in which to build around, that chance to get up high up the pitch, fight for balls, win little free kicks, carry us up. We haven't got that. We haven't got that player at the minute that can carry us up the pitch. And Havertz does a job. It's not his day job. He's filling in. You know, a club like Chelsea, you need players. You look at Weghorst signing at Manchester United. He's not a Man United player, but you know what they've done? They went out and they said, we need someone or something up top that can give us something we can build from and around. And that he ain't going to sign for United. He's not, but they're planning for next season, you know, a Harry Kane type player next season. We need that player, and Cuckoo, of course, is coming in next year. He's not a number 9 though, so it'll be interesting to see what we do and how we develop going forward as a team. But the problem Potter has got, he doesn't have that outstanding number 9. Ivan Toney's been mentioned, but he's got his off-field problems, of course, that he needs to deal with. But in answer to your question, you know, Kai, he's done a job. Fofana is a number 9 in terms of, like, if you have to write down the description of what you want: strong, physically imposing, can hold the ball up, bring players around. I thought when he came against Man City, I thought actually he done very, very well. I'm pleased he's got a chance today. Even though you're right, he's not going to be in the Champions League squad, but it gives him a chance today in the Premier League and the rest of the season to fight for a place up top.
Absolutely, Jason, great work, mate. And like you mentioned, quite a lot of players that have been rumoured potentially to be coming into Chelsea, players that are on the books currently in Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang and Armando Broja and David Datro Fofana and Kai Havertz as well, all can play up there. But we will see what happens over the next few weeks and months. Right then, wherever you are watching today, get us involved using the Wherever You Go hashtag. This is thanks to our partners Trivago. Want to celebrate fans all around the world, wherever you're checking in from. Let us know where you're watching the game, who you're watching the game with, how excited you are for it, and also what you think result will be today. We want a little bit of positivity. We're getting that, boys. We are feeling that as well. Southampton fans just getting a rapturous applause as the players approach the pitch. It's a big game for them as well, Sam. You know, they are without a manager after sacking Nathan Jones last week. It's a big opportunity and almost a little bit of a free hit for them this afternoon, which can be very dangerous.
Yeah, 100%. And we were talking before the game, you know, we saw what happened with Leeds. You know, they lost their manager and then they went into the next game. The players, they're playing for more because, you know, now sometimes people say that once the manager's gone, like, the players feel more responsibility, and you heard the Southampton fans, they're going to get right behind this team. Yes, they're in a position that they are, but they want to improve, and the only way really is up. And against a team like Chelsea, where a few of their players have actually had good games against us in previous years. So yeah, it's going to be a big game for them.
Will be a big one. Jace, just back to you, mate, because 3 points for 3 points. How did Chelsea overcome this Southampton team today?
Well, I mean, look, you just highlighted it there. They're managerless. They're kind of rudderless. This is a side that we should just sweep aside and pick up 3 points. The Premier League doesn't work like that. You can often find when a team has been released that Nathan Jones came in, it was a terrible time for their for that decision to be made. Sacking Ralph, moving in Nathan Jones, picked up 1 point. Terrible. But you know what? It kind of releases them a little bit now. There is that free hit, and they are a dangerous side. I can't be having that. We need to beat them. It's as simple as that. The money we spent, there's a manager's side down there. We've got to get on top straight away. We've got to impose our game. Fast, quick start. Put them under the gun. Put them under pressure. Make them feel like they're at a side without a manager. Make them feel like they're a side that's facing relegation. Don't give them any hope. Don't give them false hope, because I've seen it too many times. The sides with good players, and they do have some good players, it's amazing how things can just change and the game can just turn on the blink of an eye. Make sure we get on top early part of this game, and I'm talking from whistle one.
Okay, then that's important then, to start quickly, start fast here at Stamford Bridge, get the fans behind you as well, of course. What about point number 2, mate?
Well, patience, you know, because Southampton will come here, and it kind of underlines the point I made, but at the same time, Southampton will come here. They'll be looking at increments of like 10 minutes. Can we get to the first 10 minutes 0-0, right? Patience is a virtue. We need to make sure that we don't start forcing balls, making passes that aren't necessarily on. It's been a tricky time the last 12 months, you know, for various different reasons, and it feels a little bit like the crowd are starting to say, come on, we spent this money, we're Chelsea Football Club. This is a side that haven't got a manager and are facing relegation. Patience has to be the way forward. Don't force passes. Don't necessarily, if the pass isn't on, keep possession. Keep them back in their final third and keep possession, and make sure that when those chances come, if they do, you've got to take them.
Patient approach, and again, understandably, like you said, it's about beating teams like Southampton, because unfortunately the position they're in at the moment, you're on a hiding to nothing when a team in the relegation zone without a manager comes to Stamford Bridge. So give me the key one then. What's the third one today? 3 points for 3 points. What's your third point?
Simple as, Jay. Take chances, please, when they come, because we played well the other night against Dortmund, played really well. I think over a 90-minute period, arguably the best performance, or one of, I've seen under Graham Potter. Didn't score. And it's a feature that's just not good enough right now. We need, that stat has got to change. We've got to be more ruthless in front of goal. We've got to take those chances when they appear. And when you're on top in games, take those chances, because you often see it, the teams go on top, play well, play a lot in the final third, create chances, balls come in the box. When you don't take those chances, all of a sudden the opposition growing confidence, and the crowd today is going to get a bit restless. It's quite simple, Jay. When chances come, we have to take them. We haven't scored more than one goal in the game since the 27th of December. Not good enough for Chelsea.
It's all important, isn't it, to put it all together, and like you mentioned there, taking your chances. Chelsea do create enough, and I suppose that's the lesser of two evils, isn't it? You'd rather be a team that creates lots and doesn't score goals than a team that just doesn't create anything at all, because goals will come, won't they?
Well, you'd like to think so, but the goals tell you this. It's not just this season, recently. It's this season. Nowhere near good enough. We're having to score, one goal. If we concede a goal, on average, if you look at the league table right now, if we concede a goal, we're going to draw the game. That's how it looks, and there's too many draws. Too many draws. We've got to make sure we turn those draws into wins. And the only way you can do that, obviously, keeping clean sheets, that helps. But scoring more than one goal. I've seen too many teams throughout the seasons that they're just happy just to get the one goal and then sit back. That's not good enough for Chelsea. We need to get that second goal. We need to make sure that we put teams and put games to bed. Because at 1-0, the game's still alive. Even at 2-0, you can argue the game's still alive. Got to get that second goal, boys.
Let me ask you as well, Jace, because obviously you've been here, you've seen sticky periods at this football club. How important is it that fans get behind it? Because we saw on Wednesday night, Dortmund, how loud their fans are, how rapturous they are, and how that gives you a little bit of an extra edge. When things aren't going that well, how important is it that fans, players, coaches, managers all stick together and kind of get behind it? Does that make a difference as you as a player when you step out knowing that you're going to get the 12th man, 12th woman, 12th person behind you?
Yeah, look, it's... Obviously, I know you know the answer to that question. Of course, it's important, but you've got to make it happen. You've got to instill belief into the crowd. It's unprecedented. What this football club has been through over the last 12 months in English football is unprecedented. We've never seen Putin decide to march into Ukraine. From that moment on, we didn't know it at the time, but that changed the history of this football club. Roma moved on. Bowley's come in with Clear Lake. They've came in. Completely different attitude, completely different model to the way the club was run over the previous 20 years. Tuchel's gone. Potter's come in. He's got a long contract. Younger players are coming in. There is a plan in place. And right now, football fans in the modern era, they are, or we are, we're impatient. We want it now. And because Chelsea fans, and we've had so much success over the last 20 years, we've been spoilt. I think that's fair. We've been spoilt. How many clubs have won what we've won last 20 years? Very few in world football. And I think we need to just accept that there is a change in an attitude, the way the club is moving forward. But results are absolutely the most important thing at any football club, and the results need to improve. They've got to be. I mentioned patience here of the play. The fans, can they be patient? Well, that's the modern football fan tends not to be as patient as they were maybe 30 years ago.
Jace, brilliant as always, mate. Keep them coming. Keep your palate dry as well, mate, because hopefully you'll have lots of goals to comment on a little bit later on. Jason Gunn is going to be talking us through the game a little bit later on as well. Make sure you stay tuned as we continue to build up against Chelsea versus Southampton in the Premier League right here on Chelsea TV. Chelsea versus Southampton in the Premier League at 3 o'clock this afternoon. Hopefully 3 Premier League points for Graham Potter's team. We're bringing you the team news a little bit earlier on. Mason Mount returns to the starting 11 in the front four with David Fofana, Joao Felix and Noni Madueke. So very, very exciting times. Right, we're going to do shoot, pass, clear now, boys, okay? We do this every match day. Give you 3 scenarios. You shoot on the most likely scenario to happen. You pass on the scenario you think might happen, might not happen, and you clear the one you think, nah, definitely not happening today. So the 3 scenarios this afternoon are Chelsea player to score first goal for the club. Okay, so we could be looking at Madueke, we could be looking at Fofana, we could be looking at Enzo, of course, as well. Chelsea to win first and second half, so be in front of half time, be in front of full time. Chelsea 70+% possession. Sam, what are you saying, mate? Which is your shoot, which is your pass, and which is your clear?
So shoot, I went for a debutant to score their first goal for Chelsea. Not debutant, a player to score their first goal for the club. We've got quite a few players that are, playing for the first. I can't remember who it is, but I think this is a few players' first time at Stamford Bridge as well. So I think Felix as well. Enzo hasn't scored, Madueke hasn't scored as well. Fofana. So yeah, one of them, even all of them, they could all score today.
On the bench as well, that can come on.
Yeah, great point. Mudrik's still off the bench, etc. Yeah, okay. So let's look a little bit deeper than 70+% possession. Chelsea are a team that keep the ball well. Southampton are a team that again come to Chelsea in the relegation zone. So there is an element they potentially could sit deep and relinquish a lot of possession. Yeah. What do you think of that one?
I cleared that one. Okay. I think that
70 is a lot.
70 is a lot of possession, but also I think that Southampton, they've got some ball players. Lavia is a very good player. Obviously, Ward-Prowse, we know what he's capable of. And I don't necessarily think that would be a problem. I think it's what you do with that position is what counts. So yeah, I'll clear that one. Okay,
so then you're passing to win first and second half.
Yeah, I think that is possible. I'm hoping for us to get a goal very early. I always call for a goal early and then a goal early in the second half. I'm hoping today is the day. Okay. That needs to happen.
Okay, is that what you're saying then, mate?
Mine's the exact same as Sam's.
Oh, is that
the exact same as Sam's? Yeah. I mean, I said it first, so who copied it?
Talk to me about the first and second half then, because...
Yeah, look, I think they kind of all play hand in hand with each other, essentially. Like, if you're going to score... If one of the new players is going to score their first goal, well, that means they're going to have to score in the first or second half, and so on and so forth. And if you're scoring that many goals, which you have to do in the first, second half, you're probably going to have a decent amount of possession. So it's more just ranking on which one's going to come first, really. And so, yeah, look, I think with the way the Chelsea squad is, with the players out on the bench that can come on, you've got several that can be coming on and have the opportunity to score their first goal. In terms of scoring the first half and second half, I feel so far what we've seen over the past 2 games, whilst there have been good performances, maybe the results haven't gone our way, I feel like we've seen it in single halves. So against West Ham, I thought we were really good in the first half, maybe not as good, also the same level in the second half. And actually against Dortmund, we were better in the second half than we were the first half. And so what I'm hoping for today is the mix of the two, where we're great in both halves. And that's not to say that we've been poor in the opposite half. I just think that that we maybe took our foot off the pedal, we let the opposition get back into it. Today, look, we mentioned earlier about where Southampton are, and whilst that is a bit of a banana peel as well, like expectations for them around the world are going to be that they're not the favourites here, especially at Stamford Bridge. Sometimes that allows them to play with a bit of freedom, and so that could get them back into the game. But what I want us to do today is put our foot from minute one, and make sure that every single minute until the end, till the 90th minute, plus added time, we are playing the football we want to play. We are dictating the games in the way that we want to dictate the game. You mentioned earlier about how they've got Ward-Prowse and Lavia. Ward-Prowse and Lavia are 2 midfielders who aren't relegation midfielders. They, if anything, could be sitting mid-table, if not above. And who knows what can happen at the end of the season, could move on to teams that would be flying up the table. And so, yeah, I just think this is a game where Chelsea can. It's a perfect opportunity for them to put a marker on it and use it as a catalyst to push on for the rest of the season.
Just a little chat very briefly about Southampton, Sam, as well, because you're eyeing up a few of the players, and we've seen a couple. James Ward-Prowse, we know only too well how good he is. Romeo Lavia as well, and then a new centre forward they've got in Paul Onuachu, who's 6'7", a target. He's behind us. He's
put both of them top bins.
And he's absolutely ripped in the top corner as well. Looks sharp, looks very, very good. Southampton fans very excited about him. Chelsea got 1 or 2 different questions to answer today. Perhaps a lot of different questions as well, considering you can't really prepare for a team that it's manager's first game. Like, everything could change from what they were last week.
Yeah, and that's the thing. In the Premier League, every team is a different monster in a sense. Like, you can't go into every game and expect the same thing. And with this team, yes, they're in a position that they're in, but at the same time, it could be a free hit for them. No one's expecting them to win this game, and sometimes not having that pressure is a good thing for a team like this. They've got a few new players coming in, they've got a few players coming back from injury, their bench, they've got a few starters that are going to come in as well, so they're going to be able to switch it up. So it's about keeping switched on. You stay switched on in a game like this, just don't give them a stiff. Don't let them feel like they've got an opportunity to get into this game, because we played the game against West Ham. Yeah, they're sitting in the position that they are as well, but at the same time, one moment can change everything. They can have 5 minutes and then they'll feel on top of the world, and then suddenly the game's different. So it's about having that control throughout the whole game.
And we're talking about some of their new boys. I mean, we've got to forget they have very experienced players on their side as well. We mentioned James Ward-Prowse, but Theo Walcott is an option. Obviously, they've got Armstrong, who's been playing for a long time. Like they've got options there that I think can make an impact at any point in the game. And it very much is today about dictating it and battling. Chelsea are going to have possession here. Like, how many times have we played teams where they're more than happy to sit back and drop off and try and get us on the counter-attack? That's what we've got to be wary to, and that's what we've got to showcase we can defeat.
Absolutely right, absolutely right. It's going to be an interesting one this afternoon. Chelsea and Southampton have had a good relationship over the years as well. One or two players going here and there. In fact, that is very, very strictly linked to our trivia question for today, which is, Wayne Bridge joined Chelsea from Southampton in 2003. Which player went the other way as part of that deal?
Ooh.
It's a difficult one, you know. It's a difficult one, because even looking at the team sheet today, I was expecting to... Oriol Romeu was here for such a long time as well. Tino Livramento as well, yeah, of course, part of the team. So there's quite a few players that have done both, so we'll have to have a little think about that. If you know the answer, let us know in the comments, wherever you get in. Let us know on Twitter as well, Instagram, whatever you got, because we could do a little bit of help usually on the trivia. I think I'll have to think about that one, because that's a tough one. Willy Caballero's another one. Willy Caballero's in goal at the moment. To be fair to him, he's putting a shift in as well.
An outrageous save. Fair play to him.
He'll get a good reception as well, Willy Caballero. Again, another player that's played a huge part in Chelsea's more recent... I love the fact that Sam and Zach, you can't see this, Sam and Zach are very closely keeping an eye, because we are very close to where Southampton are warming up.
And
it is...
I'm trying to protect us.
And we've been lucky this season that we've not had one of us flattened by a stray football, but it's coming. Let's continuing the build-up today. Mykhailo Mudryk's a player that's on the bench for Chelsea today. Raheem Sterling as well. Plenty of options for Graham Potter. And I suppose, again, we keep coming back to it, but there's so many players that are coming into contention. You've got to try and keep everyone happy, but also you've got to try and find that formula that works and that balance. Not rushing players back, but giving players enough game time. It's a really difficult job, just keeping the squad happy.
Yeah, 100%. When you get a big squad of quality players, it's always going to be difficult. But the thing is with Chelsea, because we're still finding our feet and everyone understands it's a process, I'm sure the players understand that it's a process. So everyone's going to be given opportunities, given their time. Some players coming back from injury. The players that we mentioned that are starting, like Madueke and Mount, that potentially could be out wide, they're completely different wide men to Mudryk. And Sterling coming off the bench. So if something's not working out, they might be called on earlier, and Graham Potter's proven that he's not afraid to do that early on in the game. So yeah, I think it's about just trusting the process and trusting that we're all in it together. And a lot of people, a few of the players, have spoke about the training facilities and how everyone is in the same mindset and understanding we've got a task at hand. Yes, we might not be in the best form at the moment, but it's about biding our time and understanding the chemistry.
I think that's a really, really good point that Sam's made that I hadn't thought of, to be honest, because you're asking players to do such different jobs. Mason Mount and Mykhailo Mudryk, very, very different players playing in a wide left position. Same with Raheem Sterling coming in, Christian Pulisic, Hakim Ziyech, different to a Madueke on the right-hand side. So there's options from the bench, but they're very different options.
I think it depends with the way football is nowadays, there's different systems, people want to play against different ways. Like, as I mentioned earlier, Southampton are going to be playing on the counter-attack. They're going to let Chelsea have the ball, let them come at them and sit deep and have fast players playing on the counter-attack. We almost actually saw that when we played them earlier this season. And so that's where sometimes having guys like that... Look, Mudryk is a phenomenal person with his speed, but if there's no space to run into, it's going to be tough to do that, especially when he's developing and still finding his feet. He's obviously a guy that likes to dribble at people, but currently it's about trying to make sure they're comfortable when they're getting into this, they're getting into the side. Mason has a pretty good record against Southampton, obviously with his links to Portsmouth and that. This is a big game for him. Sometimes those extra little things can mean more. They can help drive you a little bit more in those games. It's also about resting players. Mason's had has been on the bench a few games now. He's fully fit, fully ready, raring to go. Maybe doesn't feel as tired. It's also maybe he wants him to actually. We look at it as like a 4-2-3-1. Maybe it ends up they'll be swapping in Felix and Mason around in game, so on and so forth. There are certain different systems Potter might be wanting to try out. I think whilst we sometimes look at it as like a straight swap, normally what happens, it can develop other things. And look, Mason's played on the left before and been quite successful there as well. And so seeing him there and seeing other little changes, whether it's Sterling, Ziyech, whoever it might be, doesn't really give me too much of a concern.
Absolutely. All the players just going down the tunnel now for their final preparations before Chelsea versus Southampton here at Stamford Bridge. 3 o'clock kickoff in the Premier League. Sam, it feels strange that we are playing 3 o'clock on a Saturday. It feels a long time since we've had that. Yeah. But that consistency does allow us then an 8-day rest before we play Tottenham Hotspur next Sunday, which is almost unheard of at this point in the season. Maybe it is an opportunity today then to try and get 1 or 2 players a little bit more minutes on the pitch. Ben Chilwell, I'm thinking, as one of them, Raheem Sterling, and then you can build into a Tottenham game. And in a very strange world, Graham Potter might have a squad of 30 fit professionals to pick from for the first time in forever.
Yeah, we've been really unfortunate with injuries this season. I think there's always going to be that time where the players start coming back and then you've got to start embedding them back into the squad. But I think since Chilwell's come in, I think Graham has done really well in getting him back in the squad, not managing his minutes really well. Same with Reece James, he's not playing today. A few of the other players, I'm sure Kovacic won't be likely to play the whole game, and that's what you need. Those players coming in, but also the quality of the players that can replace them as well. And yeah, it's nice to see them back and help the squad.
Absolutely, it's very much a squad game. We talk about injuries playing such a big part, and hopefully that narrative will end this afternoon, and we can look forward to a rest of the season physically fit and free and ready to play. Right, let's have a little look at where you're tuning in from this afternoon. And thank you very much for that. You can get involved thanks to our friends with Trivago on the Wherever You Go. We're using the hashtag Wherever You Go, wherever you are in the world, whoever you're watching with, whatever your pre-match rituals are. If you've got a specific game that you like to make sure that you've got a snack with you or something, just let us know. Get us involved using the hashtag Wherever You Go. Okay, final preparations then, Zach, heading up to today. Who's the key man for Chelsea? Who makes the difference?
I think João Felix has shown that over the past few games. He's already shown that, when he's on that ball, something special can happen. Runs are being made off him all the time. It's going to be interesting to see how he now plays with a more traditional forward or a number 9 in Fofana and how he links up. But I think it's all going to come down to João Felix. I mean, obviously, as well, how he'll link up with his left winger and right winger. And also, you know what? Kovacic and Enzo. This is a partnership we've not seen before. It'll be a partnership that we hopefully will see develop as well. Because when Kovacic is on his day, his argument is one of the best in the world doing what he does doing what he does. And so yeah, but I think overall, if you had to look at it over the way the past few games have happened and seen which guy looks like the star or the guy that's making everything tick, it looks like it'll be Felix.
When I think back as well to players sort of. When you think back to when Olivier Giroud used to play, obviously he's a very different centre-forward to David Fofana, but you look at a number 9 being sort of a striker that wants to hold the ball up, that kind of knows that role. Is the key thing with Fofana. We know how good he can be, but there does need to be a real element of patience. Jason mentioned it about being patient in the game today. He's a young centre-forward that's going to be a big player for Chelsea over the next 5, 6, 7, 8 years. Today won't be defining for him, but it could be a brilliant start.
Yeah. 100%. He's an exciting player. We've seen when he's come on the pitch, he just wants to get things going. He wants to shoot, he wants to get at goal, and sometimes you need that. We've got a lot of creative players, but we've been lacking that cutting edge of a striker that just wants to get at goal and the striker. And I think Fofana's got that. He's got the belief of Potter's giving him this opportunity as well. This is a big game. It's against Southampton, but it's a big game. Every game until the end of the season is huge. So him knowing that he's got the trust of his managers, trust of his teammates. When we was standing here beforehand, he came out with Dennis Zakaria, and they were hand in hand. It's almost they were having that conversation like, today's your day. So I wouldn't be surprised that he's getting that extra nudge on the back and him to be really important for us today.
It's key as well, and like Sam mentioned there, having the belief of your teammates, a young player, is huge. This group are really close. You've seen how close he is as well with a lot of the boys since he's come in. He loves being here. He interacts with the fans on social media all the time. He's very, very happy to be here. The comparisons to Didier Drogba are never going to go away because he's been openly spoken about that and his nationality connection as well. But also there is an element of he's a centre forward. He's going to bring something completely different. He's going to make spaces for players around him. Is it more important that we see players around him today will perhaps show his impact more than him being on the ball, if that makes sense?
Yeah, I think so. I think sometimes when you see when Kai plays through that middle, and there's not necessarily a wrong player, but it's sometimes, obviously, Kai Havertz is a guy who wants to be on the ball a lot more. He is a creative player. He grew up playing as an attacking midfielder, partially a winger at times. And so, whilst he has done a very good job up top, and we've seen it winning the Champions League, it's not too bad when you've done that kind of thing. When you have somebody that is a natural 9 and has been playing that position since he was a kid, and that's what he's grown up doing, he's maybe not as keen to have that ball to beat. He's more than happy to run in behind. He's more than happy to do a lot of the dogged work. And so, yeah, I think it will be interesting to see how someone like Mount or Felix or Madueke are able to kind of occupy those other spaces created, well, they'll always know they have that guy in the box, or whether it's a cross, whether for a ball at the top or a ball on the floor, whatever it might be. And so yeah, it's going to be really interesting. I think he affects both sides as the number 9 himself and occupying that position, but also how he links up with those other 3 players.
Absolutely. Just one final thing as well. Benoit Badiashile, very different test for him today in Kalidou Koulibaly against a 6'7" centre forward. But as a centre half, that physical test, sometimes you prefer that, don't you?
Yeah, 100%. You know, Kalidou Koulibaly's come from Serie A. You know, that's a very physical league. But also Monaco, Benoit coming from there. And the thing I like about them is that most centre-backs anyway, they rise to those type of challenges. You know where your striker's going to be. I feel like sometimes the trickier strikers might be more difficult. Yes, when the ball's in the air, but it's also about timing. And we've seen with Koulibaly and Badiashile that they can time themselves really well. So yeah, it's going to be a challenge, but I'm sure they'll be up for it.
Absolutely. A big challenge for all involved. Stamford Bridge filling up. We're only moments away from kick-off in the Premier League. Thank you very much for joining us. Now stick around, because we're going to bring you live commentary of Chelsea versus Southampton in the Premier League, live from Stamford Bridge with the brilliant Ben Andrews and Jason Cundy.
Good afternoon, everyone, and greetings from the gantry up here. Well, normally a home game against the side bottom of the table who've lost 9 out of 10. You'd think 7 or 8 players of Chelsea could turn up and win this one, but it feels a little more pressurised than that, doesn't it, Jason?
Good afternoon, Ben. Good afternoon, everyone. Yeah, listen, there's no mistaking this is an enormous game. We've got Clive Walker, and I just spoke to Matty Upson and one or two other guys up in the gantry here.